Hey everyone, HexLex here, coming at you with some more Master Duel. Now, I gotta admit, I'm in a pretty good mood right now, and it might be pretty easy to tell why. Well, the title, I'm sure, is going to give it away, but it is currently February 4th at about 2:20 a.m. at the time that I am recording this, and as of about 20 minutes ago, I have reached Platinum 1. Yes, I managed to make it up in fairly good time, about as much time as I thought it would take me. I'm definitely not a day one, plat one kind of a person. Honestly, mostly just because I don't have the time to do it, I think. If I really, dedicated the first 24 hours to hitting plat one, I could probably do it. But, okay, I'll stop humble bragging now. About hypothetical stuff, even. Anyway, yeah, so I hit plat one. Of course, we did it with Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, as always. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the replays. I actually, you know what, before we do, though, I have to do a little bit more bragging because not only did I hit Platinum 1, but I actually caught a 10-game win streak into Platinum 1. Yeah, from Platinum 3 at 5 wins all the way to Plat 1, I caught a 10-game win streak into Plat 1. So, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at some of those duels. Now, like in the last video, I'm going to be skipping some of the replays as I am saving them for a How to Beat Eldritch and Other Stun Decks video, which is going to be the video after this one. That'll be tomorrow's video. So we're not going to watch these first three replays, nor are we going to watch this one. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one here against a Plat 1 opponent, which I didn't even really realize at the time that I was playing against them. Wow, I almost hit delete there. And it's a two-turn game, so it's probably not going to be too exciting, but, I mean, let's go ahead and take a look at it. I know, way to sell my own replays, right? Like, oh, let's start with this replay. It's probably going to be boring, but yeah, that's great, Lex. Great. Okay, so we've got a pretty good start here. We're going to go first. I'm going to Desires because although we do have a play available in the Kit into Almirage play, and normally I don't like to Desires before I combo off, there is a chance that Desires will let us go into a much better play, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing that opportunity. If we take a look at our banished cards with Desires, we did banish 2 Fractal, which was a little scary, but you see it's ultimately fine, you know. Really, as long as you're not banishing 3 of any copies of a card, you're generally fine with Pot of Desires, but there is always that chance, and it's happened to me, where I banish like all 3 of my kits, and then all of a sudden I don't have enough stuff to set up Engrave, or I banish all 3 of my Revolt, and then all of a sudden I can't, I can't, you know, set up a Revolt because they're all banished. Yeah, so here we're going to summon our Thoroughblade. We use the effect, and I am actually going to use Tiger Mortar's ability to go ahead and set up a Ram as I'm going into this Trident. And the main reason I'm going to want to do that is to get around Impermanence, right? Because if Trident has Ram as a material, then you can detach a material to negate a trap card or effect that targets it, so we can go ahead and negate our opponent's Impermanence that tries to negate our Trident, if that comes up. It's just more, plus the 2000 defense is going to be a little bit better than the 1600 attack here, but I mean, this is a great setup. We've got Trident, we've got Appalachia, we've got Imperial Order, we've got Revolt, and we've got Nibiru. Our opponent's got a Grass is Greener. We're going to flip Imperial Order, and then I'm pretty sure my opponent just concedes here. Because really, I mean, what are you going to do against this setup anyway? They know we've got the Revolt, and yeah, we've got the Nibiru. Like, if everything somehow goes wrong, we still have the Nibiru there. Okay, so we got that one done. Now let's go ahead and take a look at this duel with Doc Obsidian. Yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Okay, I've seen this field a lot. I don't know, it's really cool looking, and I kind of thinking about, I feel really bad about this game, actually. I just saw my opponent's avatar, and I remembered what I was playing against. So here I see the egg, and I'm like, oh, a Red Eyes deck. Okay, well, alright. I've never played against one. This will be interesting. I'm going to max C in response. And I figure maybe this will stop my opponent's combos, but then they drop Red Eyes Toon Dragon and Toon Table, and then I realize, oh, I'm playing against Toons, which I've also never played against. And, like, I feel a little bad here, right? Because anybody who's playing a Toon deck is clearly just trying to have some fun. And here I am with, like, my meta deck. I mean, here's the thing, right? I do see some posts, like, on the Master Duel subreddit in particular, that kind of, like, shame people for playing, like, tier 1 meta decks, tryhards. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I'm a tryhard. I've always been a tryhard when it comes to, like, not just Yu-Gi-Oh, but, like, video games in general, especially card games, though. Like, I always have to play the meta decks. Because, I don't know, I think that high intensity competitive level is like the most fun part of any card game. It's just exciting. But in this matchup in particular, there's something about a Toon deck I'm playing against, especially, that just makes me feel a little bit bad. A little bit, not too bad though. So I go into the Eagle here. I could have gone into Access Code Talker first, which actually would have been correct. I just really wasn't thinking about it at the moment. Plus, I wasn't sure yet if my opponent's set card was the Page Flip. So I wanted to see if this Eagle attack and effect provoked a response. It doesn't really, so... And our opponent's going to get to banish a card to save their Red Eyes Toon Dragon anyway. I just wanted to get the damage in and possibly provoke them into flipping their face down. But I probably should have just gone into Access Code to begin with. It would have had more attack points and I would have gotten the effect off, so... that was a scenario where I kind of let my opponent's face down, let me misplay, which is actually a tip for my upcoming video that I guess I could throw in here as well. Don't let your opponent's face down cards intimidate you into misplaying. It's so easy to try to play around a specific back row just because we see a face down card, but unless you like know what that card is based on context clues, like what deck your opponent's playing, what effects they've activated, what other back rows they've activated, and like even the positioning of where they've placed their back row sometimes can make a difference. But you should, like, generally speaking, still just play optimally and not play a suboptimal play to play around a specific back row. Usually, again, it's going to vary, but yeah, here our opponent's going to go into a Big Eye after we Access Code away their field spell. I'm just going to get an Omen, banish their Big Eye, and they're going to concede after that. Once again, like I said, I do feel a little bit bad. I feel like I'm just bullying some poor Toon player. I really hope I didn't knock this guy down to gold, because I think this guy was at Plat 5. This person, I should say. I think this person was at Plat 5. I really hope I didn't knock them down into gold. That would actually make me feel a little bad. Only a little, though. Alright, so, yep, there was that duel. Now let's go into the next one here. Yeah, I have mad respect for anybody who plays a non-meta deck. What I was going to say earlier is, like, I don't think we should really be bashing anybody for playing a certain deck. Like, I mean, Eldritch players, right? It's really easy to hate on Eldritch players because we remember all the times they set 4 during their first turn and then we couldn't do anything. But at the same time, you know, we have to remember the games where we combo off on the first turn and then our opponent can't do anything. Like, everybody does it, right? Like, everybody does it to a certain degree. And, like, hating on one deck because you get, like, you're frustrated with it isn't really, I don't know, I don't think it's a good thing to do. Plus, it makes you more prone to tilting. That's the main reason I, like, adopt the philosophy of, like, Yu-Gi-Oh is gonna be Yu-Gi-Oh. That's really just all it is. Like, you know, sometimes your opponent's gonna be playing Eldritch and set 4 back row on your first turn, you can't do anything. Sometimes your opponent's gonna be Tri-Brigade and they're gonna combo off in their first turn and do an Appalachia, a Double Dragon, and a Trident, and then you can't do anything. Sometimes your opponent's playing Toons and they open a really godlike start and you just get steamrolled by this rogue deck you never anticipated playing. That's all Yu-Gi-Oh, you know? And hating a certain deck just because that happens to you, even if it's like more than once, it's like, it's a waste of mental energy. You're expending your mental energy for something that's not productive whatsoever. Anyway, so yeah, I just kind of talked through my first turn play because it's a fairly standard one. I did consider I did consider ashing this Prosperity. I generally don't ash Prosperity because it's an excavate for 1 card, and I feel like we can ash a better target. Here, it is a slight misplay because it is going to let my opponent get a Lightning Storm for the Appalachia. However, at the same time, we're going to get to use the ash against the Miscellaneosaurus effect right here anyway, so it kind of balances out, right? Again, with Prosperity, I tend not to ash it, again, because they're only getting 1 card off of it. Duality is kind of the same, right? I tend not to ash Duality. But if it's something where they're going to draw 2 cards, if it's Extravagance or Desires, I'll definitely ash that. Yeah, opponent's going to Prankratops our back row, which I thought was a misplay, because what they could have done since they're Overraptor... Okay, so, I don't know. I guess I don't think I searched this revolt. I think I already had it. So maybe they didn't know for sure that it was a revolt. It's funny how playing Tri-Zoo, I can actually give tips against Tri-Zoo too. But here, Prankratopping the back row was a misplay because it was pretty likely to be revolt. And if they would have gone into battle phase, I would have had to flip up my revolt to get an omen to not get attacked. But then they could have Prankratops and got rid of my omen. My omen wouldn't have been able to do anything because their Miscellaneousaurus prevents their cards from being banished. So then they could have destroyed my omen. I still would have gotten some setup, but they at least wouldn't have. They at least would have been able to get rid of that omen. So again, I don't think there was any way for them to know for sure my face down was revolt, but in that situation, that was a slightly better play they could have done there. I'm going to skip this duel against Domari. Like I said, this is going to be a good one. As you can see, 18 turns, and we ended up winning. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to the next duel here against a one Sai. I always want to say something like, leave a comment if I showed a replay where I'm playing against you, but at the same time, I feel like I don't want to bring up like bad feelings if somebody did, I don't know, not have fun playing against me. I don't know. It's like, okay, so when I used to play in real life, right, I would always offer a handshake whether I won or lost at the end of the duel. Even if I got completely steamrolled, I would always offer the handshake. There were plenty of times where I'd steamroll opponents and offer the handshake, and I feel like my opponent interpreted that as me being disrespectful, which it never was intended to be. In fact, it was the quite opposite. But I can see how maybe it would have been, it was maybe a bad move for me to offer a handshake when I get a really good opening hand. But, I mean, that's happened to me, not a lot, but definitely more than a few times, is offering my opponent a handshake and then refusing to accept it. Which again, if I completely luck sack my opponent and just like get a godlike hand, I don't really fault them for doing. Okay, so here I'm going to go for a double dragon play because I already have Revolt. I don't need to go into Bear Bum. I kind of want to keep my Nibiru. And I want to have some amount of disruption while not giving them too many draws off of Max C. So here we can see it's this like, I've run into this deck a couple of times, this like Kaiju, all monsters except for 3 Sekka's Light with the Fairy Tail Lunas. This deck's interesting. There's a part of me that kind of wants to build it. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think it looks cool. I've always loved Monster Mash decks. Monster Mash being like most if not all monsters in your deck. OG Monster Mash back in the day was like this was during like Secret era, I think. That was really fun. I really liked that deck. It wasn't good. It wasn't a bad deck. I would call it like tier 3 at best, but it was a fun deck. And playing against this deck makes me, it like, just brings nostalgia. It makes me want to play against them. But yeah, I mean, they're not going to do much too threatening, right? They're going to get their Alpha out, but we can just end phase omen it. Alpha doesn't have a quick effect, so I'm not really concerned about it. As always, we're going to want to chain block here. I did see somebody point out that in some of my some of my older replays, I do misplay by putting omen at the end, which I should not be doing. I should be ordering it most of the time. I should be ordering it the way you saw there, like Nerval, omen, and then Kit, because Kit is really the one we care least about. Like, if Kit gets negated, whatever. Yeah, here I just put 8,000 points worth of damage on the board and then go for game. Again, I've said this before in a previous video, but it's really interesting to me to, like, not have to really worry about effects going into the battle phase. Because, again, I'm more of an old school player, right? When I was really playing competitively, it was like 2011, 12, 13. And in those times, Gores, Tragodia, Battle Fader, those were very, very real threats. And, like, even if you have 8,000 points of damage going into an open board, if your opponent has at least one card in hand, like back in those days, it was like, okay, I still got to be cautious in the way I enter the battle phase and attack. And I still have that instinct, which I think is ultimately a good one. But it's just funny to me that, like, I never see any effects like that during the battle phase anymore. And it's actually kind of a relief, to be honest. It's funny because it's one thing that's actually easier about playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays compared to back then. And I see a lot of people say, like, oh, I haven't played in such a long time. This game seems so hard right now. It is on the surface, definitely. There's more mechanics, obviously, to keep in mind. But really, once you get down to it, if you've played within the last 10 years, you can pick back up on it fine. It's not that bad. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's go ahead and go into the next replay while I take a sip of water because my mouth is getting dry from talking so damn much. There we go. Stay hydrated. That is an actual pro tip from Hexlex. Stay hydrated while you're playing. That shit matters a lot more than you think it does. Anyway, here we're going to go into a Desires right off the bat. Once again, I just want to be able to set up more plays than just Fractal. So here I'm willing to go into it. Plus, I already have 2 Revolts in my hand. And Revolt is really the main thing I'm concerned about sending all 3 copies of with Desires. So I'm fine here. Okay, here's a well-timed Maxi against Tri-Brigade. They actually waited until I activated Fractal's effect. So since they did that, I go into Double Dragon instead of setting up an Appalachia play, so that I only give them 1 draw and I still set up some amount of disruption. Ah, yes, I think this is the first replay I'm actually showing on this channel against Virtual World, because even though Virtual World is like a tier 1 deck, I just don't run into it much. Like, again, this is the first replay I'm showing against them, and this is probably, I think, the 3rd time since I started playing Master Duel. Not just this season, Season 1 as well. This is like the 3rd time I've played against Virtual World. Which I actually consider to be a bit lucky, because I honestly don't like playing against this deck. It's really stressful. I mean, I'm sure if I played against it more, I'd get more comfortable playing against it. Because, I mean, I guess to be fair, I felt the same way the first, like, I don't know, 5-ish times I played against Drytron. I was like, they're getting so many effects and they're ending on either these giant monsters or heralds. Like, what do I do against this deck? But once you play against it enough, you kind of realize, like, okay, I know the worst they can do, and I know when to, like, time my negates, so I'm just still in that phase with Virtual World. And this game in particular was actually very helpful in helping me, like, learn the, you know, get used to playing Virtual World, against Virtual World, rather. Yeah, Virtual World is, like, kinda neat, but I don't have a whole lot of interest in trying it out. Now that I've actually hit Plat 1, I've actually been thinking about, like, other potential decks to try. I haven't landed on anything solid just yet, so as always, I'm open to suggestions in the comments if there's any deck you guys want to see me build, want to see me try it out. You know, I'm thinking about sinking some money to buy some gems, just so I can invest in some more decks for the channel, so... yeah, any suggestions at all, leave them in the comments, and I will definitely take them into consideration when building my next deck. Okay, here they go into this, like, Ravenous Croconid thing. They're gonna get to draw a card, but this quick effect, I'm not very scared of it. Just them discarding 2 cards to destroy a card on the field, that's whatever. I do have the Heartbeast Feather Duster, so I'm also not particularly concerned that they have this, Virtual World Gate up. Normally this card is pretty annoying, it can disrupt your combos pretty easily. But, like I said, I'm not super concerned about it. They get the Shen out, but I'm not concerned with that either because I've already got a grave that's like pretty much completely set up, so they can start banishing my stuff from here on out. It's funny because for a graveyard-based deck, this deck is actually not usually hit as hard by stuff like Macro and Dimensional Fissure, especially Dimensional Fissure, but particularly like Macrocosmos. Cards like those are like annoying if you haven't set up yet. But if you have already set up, and or if you have a Revolt, they're not that big of a deal. Yeah, we're just gonna have Harpies here. We've got the Imperm set for this True King, so I'm not worried about that at all. Yeah, they're gonna try to activate it here in response to Chaos's effects, but I'm just gonna negate it. You can see I've got my Imperm in the 3rd column. Always try to put Imperm in the 3rd column, because it just... people tend to activate their spells in the 3rd column, and you can just... I've won more than one game that way. By putting Imperm in the 3rd column, negating an opponent's monster effect, and then later my opponent plays a spell in that column, totally forgetting that was the column Imperm was in. Because there's something about it, people just tend to gravitate towards that middle column when they're activating spells. I see myself doing it sometimes, and I'm trying to actually like avoid doing it. I think it's actually kind of neat how much zone placement matters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays, because for like the whole game up until Lynx came out in like 2016, zone placement like didn't matter at all. So it's actually, yeah, it's really neat to see zone placement mattering. But yeah, here I'm just going to go into Shurig and then Access Code Talker, just to get 8,000 points of damage on the board, and we can just smack our opponent for game. That's another thing I really like about this deck, is that it's relatively easy to OTK your opponent. You can't always do it, but you can usually find a way to get away with it if you have even like a couple of things set up. And you can just, like, so you don't have to, like, focus on getting chip damage in to win the game. You can just, like, focus on stopping your opponent, getting yourself set up, and then once you know you're good to go, you can just, like, just smack 8,000 points of damage onto the board and into your opponent's face. Alright, so we have one last duel against Chippy here. This was the mirror match, if I recall correctly. I'm doing that thing again where I'm trying to predict. Although this is the mirror match, I do remember it, but... Alright, we have a really solid hand here. We've got Kit, Ram, we've also got Ash and Nibiru. We've also got the Pot of Desires, which we're going to activate first. Doesn't let us go into too much more, but we did get a Nerval, which is going to be preferable to discard as opposed to Ram. When going first, I like to try to save my Zoodiac monsters as a backup play, right? Because we can use our Tri-Brigade stuff to combo turn 1, assuming we don't get stopped. We'll just combo with our Tri-Brigade stuff. And then next turn, if our opponent manages to answer our board and answer all of our Tri-Brigade stuff, all it takes is one Zoodiac monster to go into a Zeus to clear our opponent's board. So it's just a good backup plan. And I try to, again, save Zoodiac cards if possible. If you need them to combo, that's fine. You can use them, but we're going to put back the extra Ash here. Our opponent's going to Twin Twist or discard Nerval. We're going to flip Revolt in response. And we're just going to go ahead and get ourselves an Omen here. But yeah, I really like this setup we've got. Again, we got Ash, we've got a Ram for backup plays next turn. We've got the Omen set up. We also have Rugal out, so even though we don't banish anything right now, we can potentially banish something later with Rugal and the summoning effect. And if things go totally wrong, we also have Nibiru. So here we're going to Kit, and yeah, we can't Ash their Nerval just because of the way chains are set up, but I don't know if I would have Ashed Nerval here anyway. I think I would have just left it. They're going to get a Fractal. Now, they do have the Lightning Storm, which I was a bit concerned about, but I think, hey, okay, at least I can get Rugal's effect, and then Almirage can negate, or can protect this Omen, but props to my opponent. They had a Called By, and I didn't really consider getting my Almirage Called By. This has never happened to me before. It was really cool to see this play, actually. Even in mid-game, I actually stopped and I gave like my opponent a golf clap. Because that was excellent. Yeah, props, Chippy. That was good. Yep, Karos is going to summon a Farajit for them, and then they're going to get a Fractal. But, as I said earlier, in case things go completely south, we do have Nibiru. And yep, they're going to go ahead and activate Fractal for the Ancient Warrior. I'm going to trigger Nibiru, and then poor Chippy is going to have to concede to that. And yeah, that was the game that got me into Platinum 1. Yep, that's all of them. Like I said, we skipped 4 altogether, but we are saving those for the next video, which is going to be a much awaited one, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, all the videos that I've put out so far, you guys have pretty much seen my whole journey up into Platinum 1 for Season 2 here. In Season 1, I think I started showing replays when I was already in Platinum. I know I did, actually. I was in Platinum 5, if I recall correctly. But yeah, this season, you guys got to see a lot of my games going from Gold to Plat on day 1. That was a ton of fun. We got to see some fun videos with Nibiru. Or some fun duels with Nibiru, and then yeah, this was the rest of my climb here, save for a few duels that, whoops, sorry, bumped in the desk, save for a few duels that will be in the next video. As always, I am super duper appreciative of you guys watching. I am hoping you're enjoying the new audio with the mic here, and I look forward to upgrading our collection, upgrading my setup, and continuing ideally to grow from here. Yeah, it's been a riot. I love this. In any case, this is Hexlex signing out. Have a good day.